Hello to all of you and to my fellow wealth hackers. I wanted to make this video and such a magnificent view behind me that I wanted to do it outside. And I'm going to do it in a free-flowing story, basically. So one of my colleagues, Alex, got hold of me and said, "Hey, dude, you just been in the forest for 5 days with no food and no water. Are you alive?" And I thought, well, probably what I should try and do is make a video to try and explain what I went through, what I learned, the wisdoms and the lessons. Now, for some of you, you're going to think, right, Scott has finally gone off for the fairies. He's finally gone cuckoo, and yeah, so be it. One of the reasons that I do these wealth insights is to share my journeys, to share my growth, to share my learnings. And one of the things that I think I'll start off with is that personal development's always been something very important to me. In fact, it's my highest driving need. There's a thing called PDD, which is personal driving dynamics, and my personal development is number one. So I always like to grow and learn. But one of the things I've realized, I've been doing it, from, well, my dad was teaching me when I was a teenager, um, is that one of the things I've been learning all my life is that I've been doing a lot of stuff externally, and I've been learning a huge amount. And I also even knew a lot of the stuff theoretically. I told you many times in India, I learned the be do have. It's all about being the person that you want to be. And yet, although I knew all the stuff, certainly for the last 5 or 6 years, I was in India in 2018. I've known for the last 5 or 6 years the theory, but I haven't been doing it. I think I've been trying, I've been journaling, I've been meditating, but I haven't been doing it. And it's been a metamorphic change that's happened in the last 2 years. Um, and then really, actually, quite frankly, in the last 2 months, where it's just geometrically gone to another level. And that's the sort of stuff that I want to share with you, that I've learned and how I've learned it. And don't get me wrong, there's no destination to this journey, so it's a learning journey. I want to start with a little fun thing. There's a thing in South America called a yatiri. Now, a yatiri is like a holy man, and what they basically believe is often the person is struck by lightning and survives, and it means that they've come back from the dead in many ways. Very, very spiritual person. And this person is able to connect with the ancestors and ultimately to share wisdom and guidance. And what's been interesting is that that's all ancient cultures around the world have the same sort of thing. It's just different names. And so I joked with them and shared with them, like, because this one, the chief that we were with now, and I'm going to explain a little bit more about who he was, is a Yatiri, and he went through the same experience. And I was like, I got struck by lightning. And they're like, what are you talking about? I really did. I got struck by lightning in London. I was working on a crane. I was literally holding the big chain. We were offloading concrete pallets. And I was on site. I had the radio. I was dealing with the crane guy, and the crane got struck by lightning. The lightning came down the chain. It literally nailed me. And I survived because I was on a truck. So the truck had wheels. The concrete pallets were on wooden planks, so it obviously didn't earth through into the ground. And so, I don't know, bit of humor, but maybe I'm a Yatiri. And literally, someone said to me yesterday, like, don't joke about this stuff. This is actually quite important. And so, here's me trying to share my wisdom with you, um, of my personal journey and what I've learned, and may it be valuable to you in your own personal journey. So, let me start quickly with a couple of things which I think are relevant. And the first one is all about ancient wisdom. And so one of the things that blew me away is that one of the things I'm most grateful for what I did in the last week is that there's this ancient wisdom that's out there in the world. And I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. I've done a lot of work in China, and the Chinese talk about the different years, and the years go in 12-year gaps. And I must admit, I was there sort of 2015, 2016 when we were doing a huge amount of work. And I was like, what a load of rubbish. Like, I know the moon and the tides and the sun and everything change. And, that kind of makes perfect sense to me energetically. And I was like, oh, what a load of rubbish. And then I was at Silicon Valley in America on the NASA campus. And they said, oh, we just invented this new machine and you can pick up energy that comes into the earth and it goes in 12-year cycles. And I was like, wow. Like, how the hell did the Chinese learn about this 5,000 years ago, or however long ago it was? And us Westerners have either not learned it or forgotten it. And I do believe, and I've learned this a lot, I've done a lot in India. I think there's a real ancient wisdom to many things that we've learned, and I can't answer you. I actually have a strong opinion, but I'm not going to put it out on this webinar, this video, as to how the West has forgotten it. But we have, and so I think there's a huge amount of wisdom that one can get by going back into these really ancient cultures. And I didn't, to be honest, realize, quite frankly, what I was signing up for. I do a lot of stuff from a place of trust. And if I trust other people, I just do it without looking into it too much. And that's exactly what happened here. The two people I really know, like, and trust, and to Brenton, and Dave, deep gratitude for inviting me in to this process. But to give you an example, the ancient tribes of South America have these cultures, and this vision quest, comes from both South America and North America. And then you've got the North American Indian tribes that had a similar culture. And there's one gentleman called Chief Freddy. And I want to share a quick video with you here, not a video, a picture. And this gentleman talks about the prophecy of the condor, which is the big bird in South America, and the American eagle, and them coming together, because you got the traditions of the South American tribes and you got the North American tribes, and it coming together. And this here is Chief Freddy on the left here. He's born from Peru. He came from the Andes, and he had a dream of being a big commercial real estate property person, and then he did these vision quests, and he realized that his gift and his purpose in life was to share the ancient wisdom and the ancient traditions with people all over the world. And this is actually one of his relatives, a guy called Maurizio, who, at his own expense and whatever, literally flew out to be part of this. He lives in the Andes. No, he doesn't. Sorry, he doesn't live in the. He lives in the mountains. He's from South America, but he lives with his wife in Europe. And he came out from the French mountains, the Pyrenees, to be there and to support, which was incredible. And so these were these two very wise and South American men that kind of took us through this process. And then another person, which was a real shock, I didn't even know this was happening, was this gentleman here, and he is the king of the Khoisan. Now, from my understanding of history, the Khoisan are certainly, were the only people that lived in South Africa originally. And to my understanding, and kind of the Bushman paintings and all, I don't know if you're allowed to say that, but anyway, all of that type of stuff, they're actually one of the the oldest tribes on the planet, if not the oldest. Quite a few people say that in the cradle of mankind. By the way, we're doing a wealth weekend with all our mastermind people in the cradle of mankind, because it's literally the center of creation for humanity. And this gentleman's the king of the Khoisan, and that's his queen. And he also came on this quest. He did the entire thing with everything I did. He did, including sitting in the forest and everything in between. And he also shared his wisdom. And so it was this great gift of wisdom from these ancient cultures. And if you think about it, you had the condor, you had the South American cultures, ancient wisdom, you had the North American tribe, because Chief Freddy's been trained by the Lakota tribe in North America. He's one of the chiefs from their tribe. And then obviously you had the king from Africa. Pretty special, actually, if you think about it. Don't know why, even that makes me quite emotional when you think about how special that was. Like, literally the first time ever in Africa that this has been held. Three of the most ancient tribes in the world, and all coming together, which is pretty amazing in terms of that process. So what is a vision quest? So a vision quest is really interesting because it's really hard to explain, but in simple terms, the way I'd sum it up is that it's a place where you go and you test yourself, and you put yourself in isolation and solitude, and you get supported by the people to try and find your vision, to try and find the answers, to try and find the purpose of why you're here on this planet. And in the old days, it was also to figure out how you can add value back to your community. And so what it is you arrive on a Sunday, and the whole ceremony starts around lunchtime, and they light the fire and everything in between. And then you go into a prayer ceremony on the Sunday night, and you go through the entire night. Now, I'm going to talk about this, for myself, but like sitting on your bum in a North American teepee tent is pretty, actually, let me show you a picture of that quickly. The tent, you can see here, it's set up. So I'll show you some pictures. So this here was us as a group. So quite a small group, about 30, 40 people basically. And then this year was Chief Freddy lighting the fire. So this was the whole process starting on Sunday. There you can see the king of the Khoisan sitting there. This is the fire effectively going. This is the sweat lodge on the right here, which I'll talk a little bit about. This is putting the teepee up. And then, oh, come on, man. And then this here was the teepee. So when I talk about the teepee, like there were 40 of us sitting in this little teepee. And they basically go through the entire night. And it's all about prayers, and it's singing songs, and it's wisdom, and it's asking for guidance, and basically praying for the questers. There were 9 of us that were going up. It's called going up onto the mountain. And then the next morning you go into that sweat lodge, and I mean, in simple terms, like a sauna, but it's an ancient thing, and there's a whole methodology about it. You know, I could talk for hours about how this all works, but basically it's about sweating, it's about gratitude, it's about praying for what you want. And then from that point on, you don't talk. No more water, no more food, no more talking to any human beings. And from then, the chief takes you up. It's called up in the mountain. In our case, it was up on the hill and in the forest. And he basically puts you out in your areas, and you have a space that the best way to describe it is 2 doors. Like, take a door the size of a door, and 2 of them next to each other. That's how much space you have. And he basically puts you in your area, and that's where you stay for the next 4 days and 4 nights. You put your prayer ties up. There's 101 prayer ties for the direction of east, which is love and patience. There's 101 prayer ties for the direction of the north, which is all for courage. There's 101 prayer ties for the direction of the west, which is for wisdom and joy. And there's 101 prayer ties for the south, and that is for intuition and trust. And so I did all my prayer ties. It's quite an extensive process. It took me about 12 hours to do it all. And then there's 1 extra prayer tie, which is for your overall intention for the entire event. So you put them up around you to call in your prayers and to protect you as well. And then you start, okay? And you're there for 4 days and 4 nights. No food, no water, no human contact. And then on the Friday, they come and pick you up. I'm going to come back to explaining my experience, but they come back on the Friday and they pick you up, and there's a bit of a celebration. You go back in the sweat lodge, and you share your wisdom and your insights, and you share your gratitude. And then there's a celebration, and then that night you go back into the ceremony. And again, believe it or not, it started at 9 o'clock in the morning, and it finished the next morning at 10 a.m. Yep, you heard me right. That's 13 hours of sitting on your bum while there's these celebrations and wisdom being shared and songs, and yeah, it's hard to explain if you haven't experienced it. And then, you know, on the final day, there's a final celebration, and then you clean it up and everyone goes home. It's quite a process. It takes 6 odd days. So let me share with you what some of the things were that I found really interesting. So I asked for 4 prayers. The first one was surrender. So really surrendering. I've been someone that's wanted to control my life all the time and be in control and consistently control, and I wanted to surrender. The second one was for wisdom. The third was for intuition, and the fourth was for healing. And so they were the 4 primary motives that I went in with. Some of the challenges I had was, you know, I actually shared with people, and I was in tears on Monday morning, because the place that we went to is an incredible place. And I've been there a few times before. This was my 3rd time there. And this is a quote that the gentleman has up in the main venue. And it says, "The cave you fear to enter is where the treasure that you seek, holds the treasure that you seek." And it's a really interesting poem, because it epitomizes for me, and I shared with everyone, that being with myself and truly connecting with myself and my little Scotty and my own emotions and my self-love and my hurt and my everything in between is probably the thing I'm most scared of. And it's why I've kept myself so busy in life. You know, I've numbed myself, whether you want to call it alcohol, working really hard, eating, you know, et cetera, being busy, being around other people, always suppressing the feeling so that I wasn't present with myself. And so, yeah, I was terrified to go spend 4 days with myself, and really get to know myself in terms of that process. And it was a real challenge, you know. I tried to do things on the mat. I did meditation. I did a lot of meditation exercise and really connecting with my inner child and myself and the different parts of me, both the shadow and the gold, the hurt and the pain, and also the truth and the brilliance that lies within me. I did meditation. I did stretching. But, you know, honestly, there were many times where I just lay there watching the sun going, "Oh, please move across the sky. Come on, please." Or watching the moon, and, you know, these brilliant night skies with moons and stars, and just lying there just going, "Come on, dude, like, move, man, move. Let's let time go." You know, so I find that really challenging. to spend all that time just with myself and have no watch, no light. So, you see the moon, you've got no idea whether it's midnight or 4 a.m. in the morning, and you don't know when morning's coming. It's quite an interesting thing. Trust me, you've got very used to having your watch or a friend around or a cell phone to ask what the time is. If you have no idea of time other than the moon or the sun to know, it's pretty challenging. And the other thing that I found a massive challenge was patience. Patience, I always joke with people, patience is not a virtue I was born with. And yet these spiritual people, like, what I think they could do in 10 minutes, they take 10 hours to do. And so, it pushed me to a level of patience I've never dealt with before. I thought I was finished on Friday. I thought, like, we're done, job done. Let's rock and roll. Let's get back to real life. And we go into the ceremony. And as I say, it starts at 9 o'clock at night, but you had to be there at 8:30. So you're already in there before. And the next morning, the sun comes up. The whole night I'm wishing for the sun to hurry up, and the sun finally comes up, and we keep going till 10 o'clock in the morning. 13 hours of ceremony. And this was just patience that I have never experienced before. And I found it extremely, extremely difficult. And it's certainly a lesson. Love and patience keep coming through to me. And this word patience, and even yesterday, the chief said to me, I need serenity and I need patience. And it's like, wow, okay, universe, I get it. Like, I'm here, I'm listening. So yeah, I found that some challenges. Some of the lessons I learned was what came through very clearly for me is that there's 7 loves of my life which bring me joy. And those are the areas I really need to focus on. So the first one was myself and who I am as a person, my own self-love for myself, my, basically the relation I spoke in the previous video about the relationship with yourself is ultimately going to emulate the world that you create on the outside. It all starts with the relationship that you got with yourself. So that's why I can go into all of these in a lot of detail. I'm not going to do it because I want to keep this video not too long. But yeah, so the first one's my love, my relationship for myself. My second is my relationship with my son. He's truly a gift to me and has taught me so many things in my life, including both happiness and joy. And so, yeah, my relationship with my son. My third is my romantic and emotional relationship. That too brings me a huge amount of happiness and joy as well. The third one is my business. I'm deeply grateful to be living my passion and my purpose. And just for all of my shareholders, you'd be glad to know that I haven't decided to go off and do something else, because I'm truly grateful I get to live my life and my passion and my purpose. So that's my fourth one. My fifth one is my friends and my family who, again, bring me a huge amount of joy and happiness in my life. And then my sixth one is my health and my sport. I love being active and sporty. And just by the way, I hit my target weight, which is fantastic. Nice to be fit and healthy again, which is awesome. So that's my sixth one. And my seventh one is my spirituality and my connection within the universe. And whether you want to say it's to God or to whatever you believe in, I don't really care. But the point being is that it's my spirituality. So those are my 7 areas that I really, really, focused on. And what I thought through is every single one of those 7 areas and the action steps that I wanted to take in each one of those areas in detail. I got very clear on the action steps that I need to take in each one of those areas. And one of the things that is very apparent to me is that now it's about being brave and having real courage to actually implement what I've, it's one thing to think something through and to get clear on what you need to do, but actually doing it is a separate challenge. So now that I'm back in the real world, one of the things is to make sure I implement and have the bravery and courage. And again, that's a lot of inner work, because a lot of it's actually just fear of my inner child and a lot of the childhood wounding that I've got around actually implementing. I did something, I cheated a little bit, and I took in a course that I'm doing at the moment on the 8 self-love fundamentals. And I wrote them out on a piece of paper and I took them in and I really contemplated on them, and I'll read them off to you quickly. So the first one is to really connect with yourself and your desires and to make sure you're implementing them in a healthy way. As an example, are you implementing your dreams? Your second one is compassion and being able to forgive yourself. The third one is, we see, might have to go back in the forest again. The third one is all about changing your relationship with yourself from conditional love to unconditional love. And that's how you think, how you feel, how you react to your emotions and your feelings, and how you behave. The fourth one is your accountability and your responsibility and how you show up in the world and take, responsibility for the life that you have. The fifth one is about trusting yourself and listening to your feelings and what is the messages coming from you inside and rebuilding that trust with yourself and your intuition. The sixth one is expressing your again, feeling your feelings, understanding your needs, and expressing your needs to others. The seventh one is about protecting yourself and supporting yourself out in the world, and things like boundaries are very, very important to make sure that you're looking after yourself. And the eighth one is your rituals, your self-love rituals and rhythms that you actually implement to make sure that you are looking after yourself in terms of that process. And one of the things I found so interesting, it took me 3 days to remember all 8 of those things. And again, without being arrogant, I'm actually pretty good at regurgitating information. And yet I found the ones that I struggled to remember, like just the one I just did right now, unconditional love and compassion and things like that, are the ones that I've struggled most with to give myself. And I found that a real insight to, wow, like I can't even remember these words because for some reason I've disconnected with myself so much that I've forgotten like these really important principles to myself. And there was a real insight for myself, and something that made me really realize. And they always say in life, awareness is the greatest thing you can have. If you join AA or any of those things where you're trying to give up bad habits, the very first principle is accepting you have something. It's like an awareness, because once you got the awareness, then you can really focus on it. So that was just mind-blowing for me in terms of that process. The third major lesson for me was really connecting with myself. I thought that it would be a really painful journey. I'd go to my hurt and my pain. And by the way, we all have wounds of our childhood. And if you don't think you got wounds, then you're kidding yourself. And on top of that, if you're a parent and you don't think you're giving your kids wounds, you're kidding yourself as well. But the question is how to connect with those wounds, how to heal oneself, and how to move through them. And I expected to go and actually have a huge amount of time in going through this hurt and this pain and trying to deal with it. And I've done a huge amount of work in this space. But actually, I found it was the opposite. I actually really connected myself with faith and joy. And again, I can go into the whole meditation that I do, but in simple terms, it was releasing fear, fear of not being loved, fear of abandonment, fear of failure, and fear of not being good enough. And that brings up both anxiety and overwhelm for me. And really turning that into faith and courage and creativity and connectiveness and compassion. And then on the other side of the fence, it was sadness and the anger and frustration and the hurt and the pain and the abandonment, and turning that into joy and self-love, unconditional self-love and self-care and playfulness. My inner child, I call playful lion, and I connect with my courageous lion and my loving lion, which are all parts of me, both the shadow and the gold, and really connecting with all of them and just really expressing them in life. And it's not getting rid of the shadow, it's embracing it and realizing it's part of you, and it will always be part of you. But then also all the good parts of you, the gold that's within you. And again, I could talk to you for hours and hours about this. The healing yourself, if you think it's a responsibility, not only because you want to experience joy, and by the way, to get to joy, you have to go through sadness. But actually, it's really interesting. Who you are today and how you feel and the way you behave is based on 7 generations back in your past. And if you heal yourself, you're not only going to fix things for yourself, but you're going to fix them for your children. And if you don't have enough pressure on your shoulders, it's going to help for the next 7 generations. Like, you can heal family wounds that have been going on for generations, and you have this opportunity. And by that measure, you also have this responsibility to heal, the patterns of the past and to change them. And how cool is it that you're in control of that if you're really willing to put in the work? And like I said to you, that quote, you've got to be brave enough because the treasure you seek is in the cave you fear, but you've got to be brave enough to go into that cave. And just by the way, you don't have to do it all on your own. There's incredible people out there that are willing to hold your hand and walk into the cave with you. But to be fair, you've got to have the willingness yourself to go there. There can be people, guides that can support you. There can be material and learnings that can support you, but you have to be brave enough to do it yourself. One of the things I loved doing was having nothing to do. It reminds me when I was 13 years old, I was on holiday with my parents in America, and I can't remember why, but I was sick. I just had flu or something. And I remember sleeping under this, on the beach, under this little tent, and just this most blissful sleep one of the best sleeps I ever had, in the sun, wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold. It was just amazing. And that was one of the things I really enjoyed of these 4 days, just lying there, wasn't too hot, wasn't too cold. During the day, I'm talking about sleeping in my sleeping bag and just sleeping and not having to wake up, nowhere to go, no messages, no one to talk to, no responsibility, nothing. All that I had a responsibility to do was to rest and to connect with myself, which I found really, really interesting. And it reminded me of my gran. My gran always said, Scott, you always go, busy. Just slow down and smell the flowers. Look at the flowers. Just be present. And I always think of my gran when I see a beautiful flower. And I actually took in a flower. I took in rose quartz, which represents self-love and love. And I also took in a flower called the birds of paradise, which is a South African flower some people know as a strelitzia, and it represents joy. And I would often touch that flower. I'd look at it, and I'd think of joy, and I think of my gran, and I think of my romantic partner, and just like all the things that bring joy into my life. And then like I also thought about another lesson I learned was the commercial side. This is something that, I mean, if you take everything I just said and you think of the power of everything I've just said, like people could charge a huge amount of money for this. And actually, the people that put it all together did it literally out of the kindness of their heart. It was a lady called Jean that had her own vision quest in North America, and she's from South Africa. She was like, we need to get this to Africa. And I mean, when you think about it, people have flown from all over the world at their cost. They've put it all together. Dave and Estelle, who did it on their land, like pretty much did it all at negative cost. And what I mean by negative cost is it cost them money to do it. No one made any profit. And it was all just about gifting the community, which is just surreal, actually, when you think about it, because I mean, I'm commercially driven. A lot of people are commercially driven, and it wasn't that. It was truly a gifting and a giving back, which I found really, really fascinating. And I suppose it kind of brings me towards the ends here, but one of the things that I found is that there were a group of about 40 people, as I said, and 9 questers, and again, talking about giving back. All the other people are there to support. Like they're there all day. They're lighting fires. They're making food. They're doing prayers. They're like basically supporting the questers. So you've got 9 people on the mountain, and you've got 30 people supporting them. It's incredible, and they take a whole week out of their life to support and to give back and to allow people to achieve it. Like it's really quite surreal when you think about it. And so for me, one of the things that I found, which I'm still spending quite a bit of time thinking about, is I felt like quite a square peg in a round hole. I'm a very go-getter, get things done, take control. If you know what an Enneagram is, I'm a type 8, like out there, make it happen, change the world, hopefully in a good way. And yet you're dealing with this like very spiritual community where they talk about spirit time, and to me, it like drove me crazy. Like they'd stand around for 2 hours discussing what they should be doing that I thought could happen in 10 minutes. And yet it was a big learning lesson for me. And, neither one's right or wrong, by the way. Like I think the spiritual component and the spiritual time needs a bit of structure and focus. And by the same token, the structure and focus definitely needs more chill out and relax and go with the flow and spirit time. So it was really interesting to witness that balance. And yeah, as I said to you, I definitely felt like a very big square in a round hole. But hopefully I could learn some stuff, from them. And I think it's always adding value, and everything happens for a reason. And so maybe that's why all our paths crossed. But yeah, it was quite surreal. It's weird to certainly put me out of my comfort zone, that's for sure. As someone who's very commercially driven and kind of get things done. So yeah, a lot of contemplation around that. I want to share 2 final things with you. And this is, if you didn't think I was off with the fairies, now you really will. There's a book that I've spoken a number of times by Gabriella Bernstein that she's got 2 brilliant books. One is called Happy Days, and the other one is called The Universe Has Your Back. And she was talking a lot about deep healing. And if you want to talk about this childhood wounding and healing, I highly, highly recommend Happy Days. And in this book, she spoke about finding a symbol or a sign from the universe to know that you were going in the right direction. And I don't know how, I can't remember if she even suggested it, but like I came up with the blue butterfly. Now, blue butterflies are pretty unique. And this was a while ago. I mean, this was like 2 years ago. And for a long time, I didn't see a blue butterfly anywhere. And then I finally saw one. I was mountain biking, and it wasn't a real one. It was just painted on the little board, while we were riding. And I was like, yeah, there's a blue butterfly. And then subsequently saw quite a lot of blue butterflies, but they were all commercial, like they were all on WhatsApp or a picture or something like that. One of the things I asked for on this quest was that, please share with me a blue butterfly if I'm going in the right direction. I don't even know if blue butterflies exist in South Africa, like in the real world. But I just wanted this blue butterfly, and told you already, I spent a huge amount of time on the 7 areas of my life and getting clear on what they were, and the different action points and what I wanted to do with each of them. And when I came out of the quest, I was like, well, I didn't get my blue butterfly. I saw lots of beautiful butterflies. In fact, while I was making this video, I saw one flying past here. And I really, really, really love butterflies. They symbolize something to me. And so anyway, like typical Scott, like I get out of the quest and I went into the spiritual place and there's lots of pictures and beautiful quotes and everything everywhere. And like I'm literally walking around trying to look for a blue butterfly. Like, and I'm going to all the paintings, like where they've been human made paintings. I'm trying to look for a blue butterfly and I don't find one anywhere. Like, oh damn it, man. Like, where's my bloody sign that I'm going in the right direction and all this wisdom and intuition that I got, is right. And then I'm walking along without even really looking. And this little butterfly like flies past, tiny little butterfly, it's big. And I look at it and it's blue. And there was another person like 2-3 meters away. I said, hey, dude, come here quickly. I said, just tell me, what color is that butterfly? And he said, no, it's blue. I said, there it is. There's my blue butterfly. So yeah, I find that incredibly surreal. I've never seen a blue butterfly in the wild, and there it was. And it happened to be the morning of the quest, literally after I just finished. So yeah, that was quite a big thing. And what was interesting is that I kind of walked to get a bag and I came back and I thought, let me look for my blue butterfly. It was gone. And I was there for another 24 hours and I went back to that same spot and I looked over and over again and it was gone. So the time that I was there was a moment in time. Sure, I've got so many thoughts going through my head. It's hard to share them all. But yeah, my final thought was Dave that runs it and is a very special, amazing man. I've got a huge amount of time for him. And he shared some wisdom and insight on the final morning. There was a huge amount of wisdom from Chief Freddy, the guy from South America, and also from the king of who, by the way, there's a whole nother thing on that around how we need to go back to our ancient ways and what we're doing in the Western world. And it's really, really fascinating and how we connect with ourselves. And that's a whole another video to be made. But Dave shared with us that everything can be solved by love. And I've thought a lot about that, because it starts with love for self, true unconditional love for self, and all those 8 things I've already said. Because again, back to that relationship with yourself, like if you in love with yourself, and then you can truly create a magnificent world, and you can share, if you've got unconditional love for yourself, you can share unconditional love with others. And don't get me wrong, I'm not preaching like I figured all this stuff out. I'm preaching the theory. I'm trying to implement the practice. But everything can be solved by love. And it's really a really interesting thought. And one of the things about your self-love is also expressing your needs, and as long as it's in a healthy way and not from childhood wounding, it's fine. And that's something that we all need to learn. And if I can beg you on my hands and knees, do the self-work, go there. Don't say that this, if you made it this far in this video, like, don't say it's woo-woo and blah, blah, and whatever. This is the way to have a meaningful and extraordinary life. And not only that, but to create an extraordinary life for those you come into contact with, and to truly live your purpose and your passion and your intuition, and big words like legacy, but it all starts with yourself. And I wanted to finish off with, I'm on a WhatsApp group and I get these messages literally daily. And again, I just find it surreal how these things come up as and when they're meant to. But I got this morning, and it's from Fun Goth. I presume that's Fun Goth. And it says, always hold fast to the present. Every situation, indeed every moment, is of infinite value, for it is in the representative of the whole of eternity. Every situation, indeed every moment, is of infinite value, for it is the representative of the whole of eternity. And my takeaway from that was that, as someone who's probably more driven than most, I'm always out there trying to plan and goals and where's the future and how do I create this and whatever. Why not just enjoy the present? And so that's my final thought. Sorry for the emotion. It's been one hell of a week. And however you guide it, I recommend you to do that personal work and to go within. And I welcome you on the journey. And to all of those who are worried about whether I lived or died, we did nearly get struck by lightning, fun enough. I was nearly struck for the second time because there was this massive storm on the first night. It was quite surreal how the universe all came together as all this stuff was taking place, and you can look into that whatever way you want. But I not only survived and came out stronger. And so what's the cave that you fear? Because that's where the treasure is that you're looking for. And I invite you, I challenge you to go into that cave. I certainly am. And I look forward to sharing my journey with you. Cheers. Till next time.